Today on Northern Revolutions, I'm going to sit down with my pal Concert Buddy. He and I are going to chat about our mutual admiration for a great rock and roll singer songwriter that you probably haven't heard of, and you should. We're going to talk about Grace Potter, so stay tuned. Hey, everybody, welcome to Northern Revolutions. I'm Rob. Welcome back if you're returning. Welcome if you're new. Concert Buddy and I will be sitting down in a moment to chat about Grace Potter, a great singer songwriter. This episode will also be featured on this week's episode of the Vinyl Community Podcasts. So feel free to check that out wherever you get your podcasts from. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Vinyl Community Podcast. I'm your host today, Rob, from the YouTube channel Northern Revolutions, and I'm joined today by my buddy, your buddy, everybody's buddy, Concert Buddy. How you doing, pal?
I'm great, Rob. How you doing, pal?
I am doing very well.
Awesome.
Chance and I have got together today. We thought we would have a formalized discussion about an artist that we have a shared admiration for, a musician that we both think is pretty damn good and maybe isn't as well known as she probably should be. And, we have talked about her amongst ourselves, but thought, what, let's use the platform of YouTube and the podcast to bring some other folks into the discussion and inform them of a great artist. And that artist is none other than Grace Potter, a rock and roll singer songwriter from Vermont. Probably about the best way to describe her, I think. She's had a career that goes back to the early aughts. I say probably 2005, and just released a new album a couple months ago entitled Mother Road. So we're going to have a wide ranging discussion. Chance, what's your thoughts on Grace Potter? How did you initially discover her, or what drew you to her or her and the Nocturnals?
Yeah, that's a great question. So kind of level set. I'm going to probably get some dates wrong, so I apologize in advance. I did have COVID last year, so it kind of messed with my memory, but I'll say probably about 2011. I went on this journey to go to some of the bigger music festivals in the United States, one of which was Bonnaroo, which is down in Tennessee, one of which is Lollapalooza in Chicago, etc. And in that study of trying to learn new music, people who I should check out, I went online, did some deep dives of emerging artists and people on the know and etc. And I kept seeing Grace Potter and the Nocturnals come up. So the first of those festivals was Bonnaroo in Manchester, Tennessee. And I think that day, if memory serves, they played the opening set of like the opening day, or maybe the opening set of that Friday, because it starts Thursday through Sunday, and blew me away. The energy, the songs, the showmanship, the dynamic between the band. And again, I didn't know anything other than it was called Grace Potter and the Nocturnals. They had like this faux tiger on the stage too. So I mean, all these kind of things. I might have had a few libations too, so it probably helped to grease the wheel of infatuation. Yeah, right. But
Sure.
But anyway, I left that set. These festivals maybe an hour. I was really impressed. So fast forward to a few months later in Chicago at Lollapalooza, playing again. Same kind of thing. One of the early sets on the main stage. Same kind of thing. Because, sometimes you like, you can get a misread, right? Wow, they're really good. You see them again. No, cooked it. Band was on all cylinders. So then that made me want to really start deep diving. Now, this didn't influence my opinion, but it kind of did. I'm going to be honest. Double talk. She did like a meet and greet at Lollapalooza. So I was like, hey, yeah, I got to meet this artist. And she was super cool. Signed my CD. think she even touched my hand. So it might probably meant more to her than me. Honestly, I get that a lot. But
I mean, as someone who has yet to meet you, I can't wait for the day.
yeah, it's the golden touch, right? But no,
That's
I mean,
right.
she was very hospitable. You know, just like one of those just usual, like, bring your thing, sign it. I told a great set, etc. So I go home and then I just deep dive. And that's where I think at that point they were touring on, was it the, oh boy, I should know it. What's the album before?
That would be the self-titled one if it was around 2011.
Yeah, I want to say it was the album. It was right between the album it was between Lion, Beast, and Beat. What was the album before that one? You're gonna have to
The
help me out.
self-titled one.
The self-titled, yeah. So it was right in that area, and that's why like the tiger on the stage on top of the keyboard and everything made sense when that album came out. So anyway, a real, and I'm just gonna say this, but since I've been following her since, probably the creative zenith so far, at least of the catalog that I enjoy. And I know you'll get into kind of like your history with her and the previous stuff, but
yeah,
I kind of got in right at that point where it was red hot. And we'll kind of get into this with the Nocturnals, kind of falling by the wayside, the solo stuff, etc. But that was my indoctrination into the artist, the catalog, and I was just blown away. And then, you know, obviously from that point, she collaborated with, or she performed with Rolling Stones, collaborated with Kenny Chesney. I even saw she's on stage with Robert Plant. I mean, she really made the rounds, right?
She does a lot of stuff with Government Mule. She's good friends with Warren Haynes.
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, impressed from Jump Street. I couldn't, I mean, and obviously we like vinyl, it goes without saying.
Of course.
And it helped that those albums were on vinyl. So I was already a fan from that. I mean, just for a point of reference, Lion, Beast, and the Beat was so hot on my turntable that it made the needle skip. It partly was where my speakers were, you know, I know more now.
Yeah.
But I would play it and I'm like, why does this record keep skipping? And it's because like literally it was cut hot that it's, you know what I mean? So I was like, man, this is some cool shit.
Yep.
So anyway.
Yep. Well, before I delve into my exposure to them, I mean, it's kind of a somewhat similar thing. For folks that have not heard of Grace Potter or Grace Potter and the Nocturnals, which fairly common, not a lot of folks have. I would describe her as and feel free to throw your spice into the mix here, but singer-songwriter, incredible stage presence, powerful singer.
Yes.
I sort of, to me, she kind of reminds me of like a sexy Janis Joplin or Grace Slick.
Sure. I was thinking like it was almost like if you did a lab experiment. You got Janis Joplin, little Grace Slick, little Tina Turner, because you know she'd wear
the legs,
especially the legs, right? She wasn't ashamed, right? And more power to it. Really, that stage persona, that stage presence, and so I could see a lot of different kind of influences into not only her music, but even the stage performance. Like there's a lot of cues.
And I mentioned she did her original solo record, which is virtually impossible to find. It's this here called Original Soul, which was a self-released CD in 2004.
Okay.
But then the Nocturnals formed. It was her, Matt Burr, the drummer, Scott Tournay, the guitar player, and Brian Donderal, the original bass player. They formed the Nocturnals in Vermont. And I kind of like to think of them as like a kind of a 70s flavored blues rock band.
Right, which I love. Like if it's not, I mean, there's been bands over the years, be it Silver, you know, anything that had kind of that Black Crowes kind of throwback vibe, right? Like I just I really am drawn to, especially when they do it well. Like you have a band now like Dirty Honey, who has that kind of flavor, who I like, but I've liked other bands better. Grace Potter being a perfect example of that.
And I'm exactly the same way. I love that throwback as well. And I still think the Nocturnals did it better than anyone I've ever heard before. I think that's my opinion.
Sure.
They did 4 studio albums. They did I think 3 EPs that I can think of. They started to self-release some live stuff, but only one was actually released, and then the band broke up and Grace went solo. But there's a commonality in the music all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll speak to with the Nocturnals and the after the Nocturnals at some point in this discussion. But how I got into Grace Potter, hadn't heard of her. I'm in Canada. She doesn't tour Canada very often. In fact, in the 13 years I've been a fan, she's been here twice. So,
I think she hates Canadians.
well, I don't know what to say.
Well, listen. She's in Vermont, right? I mean, that's where she's
Right.
from. She gets her maple syrup probably.
I think she's jealous that our maple syrup is better.
That's it.
That's
got
gotta
to be it. That's the only explanation.
So I hadn't heard of her. I was on YouTube, not as a content creator as I am now, but it's just as a spectator.
Yeah.
And watching music videos as I do. And there was used to be a radio station in Vancouver called Shore FM. I don't know if they're still around, but they would have artists in studio doing live performances. And I happened to be watching a live performance of an artist who I happen to be friends with, a Canadian singer-songwriter individual. And I watched that video, and she came up in the suggested, the ones in the side panel that if you like this, you might like this. And it was her with the Nocturnals in studio at Shore FM, just doing an acoustic version of Paris Ooh La La.
Mm-hmm.
And I clicked on it because she's an attractive woman. And I kind of, not to be superficial, but I'm like, I'm curious. And I was hooked from literally the first note. Her voice, I just went, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did what you did. I went down the rabbit hole. And it was around the same time, because if she was playing Paris Ooh La La, that was from the self-titled album, which was the Nocturnals' second to last album. So that would be 2011 probably. But I did what you did. I went down the rabbit hole.
Yes.
And I bought everything that had been released to that point, and I've bought everything since then, even the hard to find stuff. And have been a diehard fan since. I did get to see her on the Lion, the Beast, the Beat tour, which was the last Nocturnals tour. She came to Toronto and they played the Danforth Music Hall. And that was one of the loudest concerts I have ever been to. And I mean, I've seen Ozzy Osbourne, and this was louder. It was,
wow.
You saw her outside. I assume they were outdoor venues, Bonnaroo.
Yes. And I've seen her inside too, but yeah, I know what you mean.
I saw her at a concert theater, and I was at the back, and my ears were just destroyed.
Look.
And I came out of that show just blown away. And so I said, I got to meet this woman. So I stood outside by the bus, me and about 4 other people, and we waited about 45 minutes. And sure enough, her and the band came out.
Nice.
And she was the nicest person. Not only would, sign an autograph, take a picture, she must have stood out there for 15 minutes with the 3 or 4 of us there talking about the show, and had a great conversation with Scott Tournay, her guitar player, because I had a Heritage Guitar shirt on, and because I'm a bit of a guitar guy. And it was just a great experience. It was awesome. So what a hell of a band, what a hell of a performer. And that was kind of how I got there. But
well, speaking of the time with the Nocturnals, wasn't there another, at least the first couple times I saw him, wasn't there another lady in the band? What was her role?
Yeah. So Brian Dondra, who was the original bass player, he left for one reason or another. And on the self-titled album, he was replaced by Catherine Popper, who was the bass player. She went on to play with Jack White. She left Grace Potter to go play with
so she played when he did the all-female backing band?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then she was replaced on the Lion, the Beast, the Beat tour with Michael Libermento, the guy that had the big fro.
Oh, okay.
He was awesome. So, yeah, there was a couple lineup changes with their bass player, but the rest of the band, Benny Yurko was the other guitar player. Just that band was just they were a live band. I mean, they were great in the studio.
Sure.
But to hear them play, they were a band that just thrived on stage. They were, I've said before, I think that band is an example where the sum is greater than the parts. They were absolutely incredible. Not to knock her solo stuff, but that band was just like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, well, even think about, and tell me if you haven't seen this, but there was that show Daisy Jones and the Six that came out last year.
Loved it.
I got to be honest. I know people make the Fleetwood Mac parallels. Right.
And I get Grace Potter parallels too.
No, agreed. Because, like I said, you had the 2 females, you had the female front woman, You know, like obviously some internal strife in the band and so forth.
And I
But like,
think there was some of that in the Nocturnals, but that's
oh, exactly. And
not
I
for you
think
and I to
no,
pass
no, no, no.
judgment
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's all for like, you know, the dirt sheets. But
Right.
no, I think that it's interesting leaning in on that show for a second, the dynamic of having such creative strength, but also such interpersonal turmoil or strife or whatever you want to say creates really great art, right? It's like the flame burns the brightest, but it also burns out,
Yes.
right? And I think that between, and we'll just kind of talk, I mean, she was married to Matt
Matt
Burr,
Burr,
the
the
drummer,
drummer.
right? So, and without knowing that whole dynamic, but you know, you've got that dynamic, you've
I
got,
met him and he was super nice too.
sure, sure. And
Really tall.
maybe that was it. Maybe he was too tall. But
Maybe.
no, but you know, whatever was going on in the inner workings of the band definitely created, and maybe it played out on stage like you're talking about, just a red hot live show. The music and one thing I'll credit her for, I mean, she writes her own stuff,
Yeah.
which is not ever very common anymore. You know what I
Not
mean?
anymore.
There's so many ghostwriters,
Yeah.
and you know the studios prefer if like they set you with your people, and that's something that's really a strength of hers. And even, I mean, she even said it recently when she's out promoting the new album Mother Road, like, you know, yeah, that was part of my career, but I'd still wrote those songs, like, and she performs them live, you know what I
As she
mean? So
should.
those are her songs that she should, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You make an interesting point, and I think it's worth having a discussion on. So she did do 4 albums with the Nocturnals, and when she went into the studio to do their 5th album, which was this album here, which was released as Midnight
Midnight. Hmm.
as a solo album. The Nocturnals are all on this record.
Oh, okay.
If you read the
You can
credits,
read the liners. Okay.
what happened, based on interviews I've read, she wanted this to be a solo record because it was more of a pop record,
Poppy. Sure.
and
Yeah.
I felt it was a little overproduced. It wasn't, so I see why she maybe wanted a distinction from the Nocturnals, and I don't think that maybe sat well with the band, and the band did break up as a result of that. And I remember some social media posts from certain members of the band, expressing that maybe it wasn't the most harmonious of partings, but
And yeah, as they never are, right? It's
as they
very
never
rare
are.
that you have the band, everyone walks away and smiles. I mean,
But what ultimately happened is she divorced Matt Burr, her drummer, and married the guy that produced this record,
Eric
Eric
Valentine, right?
Valentine.
Yes. Mhm.
Um, that, not, I don't want to air their dirty laundry, but that's an interesting sort of demarcation point in the history of Grace Potter,
Right.
because
Pivot point for sure.
the music changed,
Yeah.
and there is a difference between the Nocturnals music and the music that came after. And she has openly talked about the journey that she's been on her 3 post Nocturnals records. And I think Mother Road really kind of brings it back to almost where it was before. And it's
Yeah.
been kind of an interesting, the one that came after Midnight, which was ironically called Daylight. It's kind of a bluesy, kind of introspective, sort of her coming to grips with kind of what happened. And then
Sure.
Mother Road is kind of I would say a return to form, I think. But you got any thoughts on sort of that journey?
No, I agree with you 100%. And I'll say that, yeah, I didn't know the Midnights and I didn't know the backing band. I'm not surprised. But yeah, to your point, when I got Midnight again on vinyl, again, salute. All these albums have been on vinyl except the first one you showed, right? I think. Even some of the side stuff they did, like they were always championing Record Store Day,
Yeah.
and they had like, or I think it was recording from like Sun Studios. I have that one. They did a couple one-offs, but I'm kind of getting off topic. Yeah, there you go. Grace Potter and I live from Sun Studio.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, it really cooks. No, I agree. I think Midnight was a very poppy album. I did see her tour on that cycle, and it was definitely and not even a departure. This is different, right? Like an evolution. Um,
Right.
you know what I mean? Because there was still, I mean, obviously on tour still played a lot of the knock stuff.
Well,
Um,
because that's when you've got one album of solo stuff and 4 albums, you're going to play
right,
that,
of course.
of course,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
people want to hear that too.
Yeah, 100%. And I appreciate it because sometimes you see when there's a band split like this and you go to that first show after it's heavy on the new stuff.
Yeah.
And I think she did, at least when I saw her, did a nice job of balancing that out. But also, I mean, I enjoyed the songs on Midnight. It was just different, right? Like
Yes.
a lot of bands will do this, and I appreciate that because you don't want to just do formula.
Of course.
Now, Daylight for me, I found a little bit softer. Yeah, to your point, it was a continued evolution of her sound. I personally like Midnight a little bit better, and then I like Mother Road better than all three. To be honest, we'll talk
I'm
about
with
that
you.
in a second.
Daylight to me, it was nominated for a Grammy for rock album of the. I don't know, it was rock album, but album of the year of some flavor.
It's a nice album. Yeah, it's a nice album. But is it something that, like, if I was somebody new who heard one of her songs on the radio and said, "Where can I get more?" I would not point them at that album to start.
No,
I'd
I
start with
wouldn't
the
either.
Knox. I'd even say jump.
We're going to come back to that question towards the end here. So
yeah, but no,
folks, we'll talk.
But to answer your question, I agree with the way you charted out. I definitely agree with it. I think that Midnight was a lot poppier, which I'm down with. I like a good pop album. And then Daylight kind of took it.
And it's not a pop album. It's a rock album that has some pop flourishes.
That's a better way to say it. Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's not like she was trying to get in that Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera.
It's not that by any means.
It was her. It was that same energy. The energy never changed because I remember that tour, and she was still on fire, still on stage, cooking it. I mean, and she's a multi-instrumentalist too, right?
Yeah,
like she plays guitar,
Hammond B3,
right. Yeah, very talented musician on top of it. And plus, one thing I really enjoy about her, I think she still plays it, is the Gibson Flying V. That's like one of the sexiest guitars.
Right? They made a signature model of that.
Exactly.
I wanted to buy one, but it was a lot of my price range.
But yeah, no, I agree. Original question. Yeah, I agree. I think the same path. I kind of felt that as a fan too here in the States.
Yeah. I think. I mean, what do I prefer? It's hard to say because while it's the same person that has written all those songs, they're two very different entities. You know, her soul, it's still her voice. They're still her words.
Yeah.
I think I got to lean to the Nocturnal stuff just because I think obviously there's a larger depth of material there. There's a few more albums there, but I thought the songs were a little bit better and they were sort of rooted more in that classic rock, blues rock kind of thing where the solo stuff is not. It's a little more, you know, her kind of finding her way. So
yeah.
I'm a big Nocturnals fan. But having said that, Mother Road, which is the new record, which looks like this. This is the autographed copy. Did you get the signed one?
I did not get the signed one. No. Look, here's why. It's not that I'm, anti Grace Potter or anything like that. It was more of I just have so much trouble ordering those things and they come damaged because they're usually fulfilled by like merch centers and that sort of thing.
As with this, yes.
Yeah, and so I was just like, you know what, if I can get like a signed one at a show, I'd rather do that.
Sure.
But no, I ordered from a web store because if it's damaged and it's, from the web store, I can work on a return. But when it's autographed, it's a 1-on-1. You know what I mean? So that's not coming back. Anyway, that's why I didn't get the autograph one.
I have a ton of Grace Potter autographs. I got one on my wall. I got a few more on my desk. But I'm like, for an extra $5, I'm going to order the autograph.
Oh, no, I'm with you. I agree.
I think I must have a dozen Grace Potter autographs kicking around. But anyway, what was your thoughts on the new record?
Yeah, no, I you said it earlier, and I'm going to borrow it again. Is return to form in the sense that, the first couple singles, I wasn't exactly sure. I was hoping that's what was coming, because the title track. So the way that the album sequenced, I found very interesting because it started off with the title track.
Yeah,
and it's a solid song.
Absolutely.
But to me, and again, I'm not. This is Monday morning quarterbacking it. I would have started with like Ready, Set, Go, which is the third track.
Yeah.
Because it's just like straight fire. And even something like Good Time, like those two songs, I think if you're looking for like a lead single, I would have thought those are more the formula or the hook than Mother Road. And I appreciate the theme of the album. And in fact, when I saw her just like a month or two ago, it was interesting. I saw she was coming to town months ago and she was playing like a local, outside amphitheater. Had it on my calendar. Then I happened to notice that just up from where I was living at the time, there's a place. It's a local brewery, and they do a music. They do like a festival every year, and they actually have like national acts. And I saw Grace Potter was playing. I'm like, oh, that's interesting because I thought she was also playing this amphitheater. So I guess they rescheduled it for whatever reason. So it was the same gig. Cool. Well, it makes more sense once I got to really start kind of learning about her thought process on the album being Mother Road, and not to steal some of what I read, but more of it's a talk about really reconnecting with like those road trips, and it really because she spends part of her time in Vermont, part of her time in California,
Yeah.
and she was really big on like Route 66, which is a
Yeah.
big highway that stretches across the country here. And so, come to find out, and this is true, is where this brewery is right off of Route 66. So it all made sense. She kind of made some comments during the performance of why this was. And again, matter of fact, the performance was supposed to be on a Saturday night, torrential rain, like it basically canceled it. I was like, oh, I guess I'm not gonna be able to see her. For whatever reason, the way they had their schedule is, I guess it was an off day, and so she rescheduled and performed like first thing that next day, which is great. So I didn't get to see the whole show. I showed up about a little early in, but it was exactly like I remember her other performances. I mean, this high energy, great skills and performance. She had obviously new people in the band that I remember from the last time when I saw her in Midnights. But yeah, no, the album I think is, again, beating this up, return to form, but also I think, and I'm not challenging authenticity on the other two albums, but I really think this is who she is. I think she's a rocker.
Yeah.
She's unapologetic, even if you listen to some of the interviews she's given over the years. And I think this is more her, for lack of a better word, natural state.
I think so.
You know what I mean? Because I think if you're an artist and you can kind of go in a studio and an engineer can have a lot of, or a producer can have a lot of influence on a lot of different areas. And I'm not saying that's what happened on the other two albums, but listen to this album, which I also think was produced by Eric Valentine. I'm pretty sure.
All three of her soul have, yeah.
Right. So I can't necessarily attribute it. If she's got the same producer on all three, it's probably not that. But I just feel like this was more of an album, and the inspiration felt, like something I could identify with, because I'm from the middle part of America, and Route 66 is literally up the street, all that. So I really enjoyed it. I was, like I said, the first Mother Road being the lead single, I wasn't sure what to make of it. And it was only when, I think before the album came out, they dropped a couple other of the singles. They've already had pre-canned videos, which I thought was smart.
Yep.
And I liked those honestly more. So when I heard them live, because then you have the next myth. How do they play live? And it was very similar to like the Knox songs, very similar to like the stuff I liked the solo, flowed real well. So I enjoyed it, and I was glad that she's, at least for this time being, kind of centered in this kind of lane. To borrow a phrase, I just made that up. It wasn't anything about highways or whatever, but no, in all seriousness, I centered more in this direction because I think it's her strong suit. I think it highlights her strong voice, her musicianship. It's the themes of her songs. It just feels like more, and as a fan, more what I identify her with. What about you?
Same here. I think what makes this a good record is she has found herself again, and she's used the other records to work through her own personal turmoil. I mean, she blew up her life. She blew up her marriage. She blew up her band. She blew up her life. For whatever those motivations were, that's not for you or I to say, but that's what happened when she decided.
That's reality. That's what happened. Yeah.
When she decided the Nocturnals are no more, I'm going this way, and my marriage is over. Her whole life blew up.
Of course.
And part of that's in the public eye because she's a public figure, and she's and a lot of the stuff that's on Daylight is her wrestling with, what she did to Matt and what she did to herself and what does it mean with her new significant other and all this kind of stuff. And she's worked through all that crap, and now she's at a place where she can be herself again, and she's got her new normal and whatever, and the music.
Well, and she's a mother, you know what I mean? So it's a different life. It's a similar but different life. Now she's trying to juggle being a wife, being a mother, being a rock star, all
It
these things.
feels like she's found her way through the turmoil to a place where she wants to be now. And I
Yeah,
think that's reflected in
what's
the
the
album.
analogy, like once the storm settles and you can kind of see, and I think that's truly what this is that, not to say that those years were bad or tumultuous or whatever, but working through some things, also kind of finding her next direction
Yeah.
for her career from a songwriting, from a song production level. And oddly enough, it's very similar where she's kind of got back in that lane of, I'm a badass songwriter. I'm a badass on the stage. I'm a badass guitar player. Like, I'm a badass. That's bottom line. Not to say she didn't think she was before, but
Right.
just like, I'm owning it. I'm confident in my own skin. This is what I'm going to do. And this is the type of album thematically that I want to put out there. And I'm all for it. Like, give me the spoon. I'm ready for it.
I got to be honest. I only followed her down the path of Midnight and Daylight because I was a fan of her work she did before.
Sure.
Not a big fan of either of those two albums, but it's not that I felt a sense of loyalty, but I loved what she had done before so much that I'm like, all right, I'm going to buy these, give them a chance. And, I don't listen to either. I mean, I listen to Midnights occasionally. I never listen to Daylight. And I just, this was kind of like Mother Road for me. It was kind of like, well, wasn't a big fan of the last two. If this one doesn't amount either, I'm going to get off this train. But it delivered, and I love it, and I'm still a Grace Potter fan because of it. I mean, you're not going to like everything that every band puts out, right?
Of course. But, again, going back to what we were talking about before, if you had somebody who's like, oh, yeah, I just heard this song from Grace Potter. Oh, and you start talking, yeah, I really enjoy her, blah, blah, blah. To me, if I was going to recommend somebody jump in.
Well, that was going to be my question. Where do you start? Where would you tell someone to jump in?
I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be too reluctant to say just jump into the new stuff because she's touring on it. If you can catch her live, even better. It reinforces these kind of things we're talking about from her stage presence and persona and her songwriting, all the things we're talking about. And it's contemporary, right? It's fresh. It's her, but it's the new her. That sounds ridiculous. It's just finding her lane. I'm gonna go back to that kind of analogy. Finding her lane in her own terms, in her own vehicle. She's driving, and so anyway, yeah, the Nocturnal stuff, smoke. It is fire. It is great. It is some of the best songwriting, particularly in the, like you're talking about that because rock and roll is dead and stuff. It's definitely it's not the forefront of pop culture anymore, but that is, I mean, if you want all the things we're talking about when it comes to rock and roll, turmoil, great songs, dynamic stage performance, loudness, like you're talking about that show you went to. I mean, the Knox had it, and not to say Grace doesn't have it now. It's evolved, right? If somebody was like, "Yeah, what do you think of the new album?" I'd say, "Jam it," because you're gonna hear all those cues and things that I like. Sounds like you like too, Rob.
Yep.
That made us fans in the first place, and it not only reinforces that fandom, like you said, and not to say that the previous two albums were into the wilderness and what have you, but it's just different sounds, and this is like what I feel is her foundation, her everything else can be built off this. She wants to make a true pop album next time, so be it. But this is her center to me. And if you want to branch out and really diversify yourself as an artist, I'm here for it. I got no problem with that. But these are songs I want to hear live. Midnight, Daylight, maybe one or two. You know what I mean? You said, not every artist is like every album has bangers, and you go see them, you can hear every single album song. But this album, even the ballad, I think there was the ballad, at least the first one I'm thinking of. I have to look at it. Is it late? Well, I think it's Little Hitchhiker. Yeah, because she goes from Good Time into Little Hitchhiker.
Yeah.
Even I thought that was good, especially a transition. That's what I mean about the sequencing of songs. I thought Mother Road was an interesting choice to lead. But then once you get through 2 through like 6 or 7, because it's a 10-song album.
Yeah.
Well, 9 songs, and then you have like a little interlude, right? I think the second track is an interlude.
Yeah.
But Truck Stop Angels. But yeah, I think it was sequenced really well from there on. And so if that's why they put Mother Road first, I get it. Because where would you interrupt that flow from Little Hitchhiker to Lady Vagabond to Rose Colored Riverview? I mean, all great songs. And going back to the rock and roll piece, I mean, there's some profanity in here. I'm just going to say it. So you got kids in the car. Now you know. Don't say we didn't warn you.
That's right. That's right. I would on ramp folks at a different point.
Okay.
I would on ramp them with this.
Oh,
The
The
Lion,
Lion,
the
the
Beast,
Beast,
the
the
Beat.
Beat. Such a good album. Yes.
So 2012. This was the Nocturnals' last record.
Yes.
And here's why I would, produced by Dan Auerbach from the Black Keys.
Okay. Yeah.
Here's where I would say I prefer the Nocturnal stuff to her post Nocturnal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's any song that Grace has ever done that
It basically encapsulates her, right?
if there's a song that encapsulates her or a song that grabs you by the balls, it's the title track, The Lion, the Beast.
Oh,
the
yeah,
Beat.
yeah. Because it starts slow, builds.
It's a bass drum and it just builds and it is anthemic. It is, and it's the opening track on this record. So
yeah, it goes right to ball busting mode right away. Boom. But it's great. Like it does build.
Yeah.
It starts kind of slow and then she's kind of like, like it starts with a little bit of a chorus and then and then boom, 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 and
boom, boom, and it builds into this huge thing. And to see them do it live is insane.
Fire, yes.
But there's also some songs in here that are incredible. There was the single was Stars, and that got a fair amount of radio airplay.
Great ballad, yeah.
Great ballad about the loss of a loved one, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah. I love it. There are other albums that have a larger concentration of stronger songs, but that one just to instantly grab you, that I'm going to go there. Not my favorite Nocturnals record. If I had to go with my favorite, it's probably going to be this one here from 2007 called This Is Somewhere. Not on vinyl, unfortunately. I wish it was, but this had some incredible stuff like Mastermind, my favorite Nocturnal song, Mr. Columbus, Big White Gate, which was a song she wrote about her grandmother on her grandmother's deathbed. And it's about, you're going up to heaven in a few minutes, and it's just heart-wrenching but powerful, awesome song. Apologies, Ain't No Time. This is probably the rockinest of the Nocturnals albums, I think, and it's phenomenal. But if you got to start somewhere, I'm going to tell people jump on with The Lion, the Beast.
Well, and also, again, she is a vinyl enthusiast.
She is.
We were trying to get her here on Vinyl Opinion Podcast, so there's still room to have that talk. But even on that album, there's that song Turntable, sexy as hell.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Just like an open love.
Put your needle in my groove.
Yeah, well, double entendres, but no, I think as somebody, so that came out 2012. So I was only like maybe a year and a half into my re-emergence into vinyl myself, and you have an artist who makes a conscious choice to use that format. Especially then, there wasn't a lot of artists, in the odds, and even because that's a deliberate choice because everything's moving to streaming, MP3 streaming, so you really have to have a passion or a fondness for the format to say we need to release that on vinyl as well, and then also get your label to agree. Because I think were they on Fantasy?
No, that was Hollywood Records.
Hollywood Records, yeah. Because then she went to Fantasy with the other albums, right? And I think it's where she is now. She's on the Fantasy, but I mean, tip of the cap. I would take it off, but you see my bald head. But yeah,
for those that are watching, there's only 2 Nocturnal studio albums on vinyl. There's this one which I just showed.
Yes.
The Lion, the Beast, the Beat. For those that are watching on YouTube, they'll see this. And then the self-titled release.
Right, with the 7-inch, yep.
Good luck trying to find either of these on vinyl, we should add. They are very scarce.
Yeah, well, but it goes exactly what we're talking about because, they told the label, hey, we won't put it. I don't know what the number is. I don't know if we'd ever find that out. But yeah, if you're late to the Grace Potter party, and I got Lion, the Beast, and the Beat when it came out on vinyl. So I was happy about that. I think it's an Amazon buy. But then trying to go and retcon and find the self-titled, I found it online at Electric Fetus in
I have 2 of them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they're hard to find and they're very expensive if you do find them. So,
and the odds of them being repressed again, talking about
probably not, since the Nocturnals have split up and there's some animosity between the founding members, who I believe are probably all equal rights owners in in the
Yeah, for
Nocturnals
sure.
catalog,
For
right?
sure.
So
But also what you said kind of in the open of somebody we definitely, both of us feel could be, should be a bigger star than she
yeah,
is. I mean, again, she shared the stage with Stones, Robert Plant, all these artists.
yeah,
And she's got the chops. She's got it.
absolutely.
It's just for whatever reason. I mean, these are how careers go, right? She's still,
Yeah.
can sells out amphitheaters and
Sells out
theaters.
Red Rocks, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, definitely a solid career. But to what the way that you and I view the talent and the stage performance and the songwriting, like to me, why she's not one of these Super Bowl artists. I'm not saying like headlining the Super
Right.
Bowl, nothing like that. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah, yeah.
they have other artists on there, and you're just kind of like, But like she would literally become a star overnight with
Yep.
an audience, just one performance, and she's the type that could really seize it. If you did a
Absolutely.
medley of some of these powerful
Yep.
songs, like just take Lion title track, Lion Beast of the Beat, take Stars if you wanted to mix it up a little bit,
Yep.
Paris Ooh La La,
Yep.
Medicine.
Yep.
And even if you go to Mother Road, like I said, the second True Song, Ready Set Go, Good Time, either of those would
Yeah.
fall in that ilk of like, where has this gal been all my life?
Exactly. Exactly. I'm assuming you, because you're a big fan like me, you probably have a fairly diverse Nocturnals collection. Is there something in there of yours that is sort of your cherished Nocturnals piece?
No, I mean you hit it. I mean, they're all. I mean, even the stuff that they did for Record Store Day, like that one at Sun Studios, I've only seen that out in the wild one other time in the last few years since I've had it. I did buy it, just because I want to flip it. But but because like those are the artists who came out and released things on vinyl from, let's call it 2007 to 2015. The people who bought that were like the fans, kind of like Pearl Jam fans, because Pearl Jam's catalog was on vinyl too, and those fans gobbled all that up. And without a formal reissue, like you said, good luck trying to find it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think kind of the story I talked about earlier. I'd say Lion, the Beast, the Beat, just because it was just cut so hot, and I still was learning speaker placement, to be honest with you. That one always just kind of sticks out. But I think to me, I know you prefer one over the other. They're kind of a 1A and 1B to me, to be
I
honest
agree.
with
Yeah, yeah. I agree. The one thing that I've got that I'm so glad that I bought when it came out, bought it off their web store, and now it just doesn't exist anywhere, is this. And I don't even know if you've ever even seen that
I
before.
haven't. So it's a 7-inch. What is it?
No, it's a CD.
Oh,
So
okay.
they were going to start what they called the Volturnal series. So it's
Yeah, of course. A lot of artists do that.
Vault, Nocturnals Vault, Volume 1. It was going to be a collection of live performances. They only ever released this one. This is the only one.
Yeah. Wow.
And this is
Rare.
a show they did on August 19th, 2013 at Tanglewood in Lenox, Massachusetts. It's a 2 CD. It's 22 songs. This show cooks. It is insane.
Fire.
It's just it's a double CD. Other than when I bought it off the web store, I don't see it on Discogs. I don't ever see it for sale on eBay ever. If you can find one, this show is awesome.
Okay. Well,
So
I'm gonna add to my CD list, but no, it goes to the point. The fans at that time, they gobbled it up. So good luck. You're paying the late to the party tax. There's the death tax when an artist dies, and then all their stuff goes up for a period of time. Late to the party tax is just as prevalent. If you didn't catch them in that 2007 to 2015 window, you're gonna be paying for it.
I know the answer to this question, but what's your Grace Potter Grail?
Hey, just rubbing it in my face.
No, I'm not rubbing it in, just for fans that might want to know.
No, listen, you can go ahead and pull it out and show the visual part of this, but again, late to the party, not even late to the party. I just wasn't connected enough to their catalog, but I bought Daylight, Standard Black. Yeah, Standard Black album. Didn't think anything of it. Found out year two, hell, maybe 3 years later. It came out. There was a web store exclusive. Oh, stab me in the heart. Web store exclusive on this, what they're calling Tiger Eye. Yes, Rob's showing it right now. It's kind of like this. It's almost like in Jurassic Park where they had the dinosaur DNA in that ember crystal. It's very similar to that color. Beautiful execution. So I find out about this and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go try to find one because I think it's a better execution than the black vinyl. Man, I had so much trouble trying to chase this thing down because however they merchandised it or however they set it up with, I think it was Red Star Merchandise. I think it was the distributor.
I think so.
I ordered it. I was like, oh, because they had it on the website. Ordered it. I'm like, sweet, done deal. I get it. It's black. Contact them. Oh, we're sorry. We'll send you another one. Send it back. Guess what they sent me? Another black one. So that the catalog number wasn't accurate for whatever reason. And by the third time of going through this with them came out, they're like, oh, sorry, we don't have any. So then when you and I connected and we started talking about our fondness for Grace Potter, I don't know if you were talking about it, I was talking about it.
No, you said to me, you were telling me how you just missed out on a Discogs purchase of the Tiger Eye vinyl.
Yes. I waited.
And I'm like, and I said to you,
don't dilly-dally. Buy it first, ask questions later.
And I said, I don't even recall there being a Tiger Eye vinyl. And then I was downstairs here in my office later that day, and I thought, I wonder what mine is, because I didn't remember, and I bought it, and I texted you, and you're like, you son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch. Yeah. And it's funny, though, too, because I've seen that execution now from several other artists, so I don't think they call it Tiger Eye or Tiger's Blood or whatever, but it's interesting because to credit, I don't know if it was their decision, if it was the production facility's decision, but it's a common color variant now. But yeah, again, late to the party tax. Good luck trying to find it. And it's one of those things that all the diehards picked them up. Yep. So like that story you just told, that was the only time I've ever seen it pop up on Discogs in the last 2 or 3 years. And I don't know why I didn't convert it. I forget. I might have asked a question. That's what it was. I sent the seller because I've been burned. I've been burned on the catalog number. So I sent them an email being like, can you please confirm this is the actual color? And then I waited, and then it sold out from under me.
One of those things.
What about you? Because I know we've talked about this, so just for the audience. If you had a wish list, because you showed a couple CDs of the earlier catalog, if they came to you and said, Rob, we can press one of those.
Oh, boy.
Which one could we press on vinyl that would make you the happiest fan?
I have everything that they ever released on CD, on vinyl. I've got like the Day Trotter sessions on vinyl.
I have that one too.
EPN put it out. I have it, with the exception of there's one EP called Live 05, which I don't. I have it digitally. I've never seen it for sale on CD, and I'm trying to find that. But out of everything that, boy, I think I'm going to go. This was their first album. Yes. Nothing But the Water. Nothing But the Water, which is awesome. But this is, which I mentioned earlier, This Is Somewhere. Just because it's got my favorite song in there, Mastermind, and all the other songs in here are just phenomenal. I think this is the Nocturnals' best record. So if this could be on vinyl, holy man, would I be a happy fella.
All right. So if anyone's listening to this from those record labels or even Grace yourself, which you should be listening to, Grace, we like you a lot.
Do us a solid.
Yeah, do us a solid. Yeah. No, but even like if you going on, I'm just on eBay right now while we're talking because it got me thinking. Because I've seen talking about rare pieces. Have you seen the 7-inch where they did the White Rabbit cover? So you have that one?
Yeah,
of course.
I got everything.
I know. I probably can't stump you on this one. I thought there was another 7-inch that they did. Oh, Goodbye Kiss.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I'm not going to stump you on that.
I got everything. Honest to God, the only thing that I don't have is Live 05. I've got everything else.
Live 05. Noted.
I've even got the single on my wall for Aw Mary, signed by the whole band.
Oh, nice. Oh.
Yeah. I got everything, man. I even have this, which I bet you don't even know exists.
No, I'm sure I know.
This was their coffee table book called Inside Looking Out, 10 Years on the Road with Grace Potter and the Nocturnals. And I might add, hold on. Signed by Grace Potter.
Okay. We get it, Rob. You're a big fan. We get it.
I'm super fan.
super fan. The fan. Numero uno fano over here.
Number one. Yeah. So well, that was fun, man. Thanks for chatting. Hopefully we've given folks something to look into that maybe they hadn't heard about before.
Yeah, go explore, stream it. I mean, go out there, kind of what we talked about. Jump on the new album, Mother Road.
Yeah,
a great listen. Even go back to the Knox stuff like we're talking about. I would be hard pressed to think if you like that, like we keep calling it throwback rock. It's just rock and roll. It's sexy. It's raw. It's songs with purpose, songs with intentionality. But then also you got a little bit of that combustibility element, like we talked about from Daisy Jones and the Six, the Mac,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd stream it, and then if you're trying to find a vinyl, like we said, good vinyl luck because they're hard to find. But you can get Mother Road. Mother Road's still out now. I would, and there's variants.
There's a black vinyl, there's a yellow vinyl, there's an asphalt vinyl. They're out there. I got the yellow, my yellow one signed, and then I got the asphalt one.
Look at you. Awesome. No, I'm glad we could do this because we've been talking about this for a while. Even when we heard the new album's coming out, I was like, yeah, we need to get together. But we wanted to listen to the new album because I gotta be honest, the new album had been trash. We probably wouldn't be doing this. So all thanks to Mother Road being a good album.
Absolutely.
That we decided to fall through on this one.
For sure. Well, thanks, Chance, for joining me. And thanks, everybody, for tuning into this installment of the Vinyl Community Podcast. We'll catch you down the road.
The Mother Road.
The Mother Road.